I'm joined in studio by Karin Muller. She's the head of growth market solutions at Sanlam. And today we're talking about tax-free savings accounts. Hello.
Hello, Jennifer.
Now, it's been 1 year since South Africa has introduced tax-free savings accounts. Where do we stand when it comes to this TFSAs?
Well, what was actually very nice to see is that when the Minister of Finance delivered his budget speech, he mentioned that 150,000 South Africans have taken up tax-free savings accounts and that there's more than R1 billion invested in them already. However, 150,000 is still just a drop in the barrel of the ocean for people who need to save. And we all know that as South Africans, we are not great savers. We have also in the last year in the FinScope research, for the first time in the last 10 years, seen that more South Africans say that they are saving than in the previous 10 years. So let's hope that this will help South Africans to increase our savings rates.
Now, what work is there still to do when it comes to these savings accounts and getting South Africans using them and familiar with them?
I think firstly we need to talk about it, and we need to help people to understand what they are for, what they are maybe not so great for, and we need to get people to get a proper financial plan, to see where does it fit in, how do I build this into my bigger financial plan. And then generally we just need to make the priority to actually start saving and start to look at our overall financial position.
Now, what are they good for and what are they not so great for?
What they are generally better for is to save for the more longer term. If we look at the tax-free savings account, there's a couple of things that basically define a tax-free savings account. The first is that you don't pay any tax on your dividends, your interest income, or your capital gains. This means that you need to have time in the market to get a proper return, and then you don't pay any tax on that. So if you take money in and out, and if you use it as a short-term savings vehicle and a short-term savings account, you're never going to get that specific benefit of not paying tax on your investment returns.
All right, so can you give me an example of what situation wouldn't be best suited to a tax-free savings account?
Okay. Generally, you can use the tax-free savings account for longer term investments. The problem with day-to-day savings is that there is a limit on it, and if you've reached your limit, you've reached your limit. So you're only allowed to invest 30,000 a year and 500,000 over your lifetime. Now, you can't replenish that. So if you put money in and you take it out again, then you won't be allowed to go above the 30,000 every year or the 500,000 over time. So that's why we would generally say it's not something to use for immediate short-term needs. So if you do use it for an emergency fund, that's brilliant, but use it for the larger things. Furthermore, if you use it for an education fund, preferably for longer term initiatives. If you think about a tax-free savings account compared to a retirement annuity for retirement, a retirement annuity also doesn't have any tax on your investment returns. The differences, however, are that there are additional tax benefits for a retirement annuity. You can deduct some of your contributions up front. And then when you get to retirement, there's also a bit of a tax sweetener. So overall, the tax position on a retirement annuity, it's much better than for a tax-free savings account. We always don't just consider tax. That's not the only thing to think about when we make a decision. You also need to think about some of the other things. Generally, tax-free savings is great because it's got liquidity. The legislation requires a tax-free savings account to have liquidity in it. So if you are worried about your money being locked up until you're 55, then tax-free savings is better than retirement. The converse of that is that a retirement annuity are protected from creditors. So it means that if something should happen in your finances, your retirement savings in a retirement annuity is safe. So creditors can't attach that, and you know that that is parked for your retirement. Generally, what this boils down to is that when you make the decision, there are two important things to consider. You need to think about the time frame of which you are investing in, and you need to consider what is it for. And then your financial planner or your intermediary will help you to weigh up all these different factors so that you can make sure you make the right choice for what you need.
So should we look at having a retirement annuity along with the tax-free savings account that we use in different ways?
Of course, of course. It's not necessarily always possible for people, because we all know we've got so many financial responsibilities and we have to make trade-offs. And those trade-offs only you can make if you look at your entire financial position and what you are saving for.
Now, if we're using a tax-free savings account to save for our child's education, what do we need to consider?
As I mentioned, there is this limit on how much you can save for it. So if you're using up your limit, it can affect how much you can save in it. If you are not necessarily too worried that you are going to use up the 500,000 or the 30,000 limit per year, then you can use your tax-free savings account for short-term financial education, for education requirements. Since the benefit sits in the longer term, it's better to use it for the longer term, so saving for your child's tertiary qualification rather than saving for the school shoes that you have to pay next month. There are other vehicles that you can use for that kind of savings.
Now, I know that you've answered this in a way already, but I think it's really important to drive home. Why should we use other savings vehicles if they're not tax-free?
Tax-free savings account, you don't pay any tax on the investment returns, which is absolutely brilliant, and it really helps us as consumers. I think we can do with any little bit of help that we can get. But it's not a silver bullet for all circumstances. And what's really important is that we say, does the investment vehicle fit the savings goal and the time frame over which we are saving? So we are saving for those immediate expenses that we have to pay early on in the year, come January, which is the most expensive month of the year. So those things we would generally save in much more short-term kind of things rather than a tax-free savings account.